Okay, so you're done with your black level and contrast ratio voting. We're going to go on to color saturation, the amount of color in the picture, which is, we want to look at color decoding and see whether it's accurate or not.
Is the DVD HD basic?
Yes, it is. It's interesting. In the days of the CRT, we had red, green, and blue filters to look at things like this. And we still, unfortunately, have to use those filters with a lot of display devices because they don't have a feature that will do RGB only, where we can actually isolate red, green, and blue separately and look at them individually. We do have a couple TVs in the room that do that, and I'm going to do that on them in a minute, but then I'm also going to hand out some filters, so take one red, one green, and one blue, so that you can take a look at it through the filter. Unfortunately, it's really not that accurate of a tool anymore, because even with a phosphor-based display like a PDP, where it should be accurate, if the TV is employing what's called color processing or color mixing, that makes it inaccurate. It's going to look wrong when probably it may be right. So that's an issue. But on the Samsungs, we get the ability to isolate each individual color one at a time, and the LG as well. And it's a great feature for what we do, and I'd like to see every manufacturer in the business put it in their televisions. Panasonic, please, Bill, can you influence anybody to help us get this? Let me show you the factory color setting on this Samsung. That'll better illustrate it. In fact, we could do this. Yeah, 8741. Highlight it.
So with the blue and the cyan should basically.
I'm goosing up the color here to demonstrate what could be inaccurate color decoding. Could be red push. This would be what you would see in a pattern like this if that were the case. At the factory preset, we found that it was ever so slightly incorrect. And the way you see that is you can see these two boxes compared to these two boxes. These are brighter than they are, correct?
Right.
In the process of setting the color correctly, which we did with the blue only, we ended up at 47. Now all of a sudden, red looks perfect.
One thing to add here, if you're seeing this little dark kind of wrinkle here, that's not inaccurate color decoding, that's caused by chroma subsampling. So the color in the image is stored basically at, a Blu-ray disc is stored at half resolution relative to the luminance because our eyes are less sensitive with that.
Take a deep breath though.
It doesn't mean the color decoding is inaccurate. It might help to kind of squint your eyes a little bit. It's like a comparison between this and the background.
And of course, you can do the same with green, and blue. Inaccurate color decoding was something that I actually identified on last year's Panasonic VT30, and it was pretty dramatic. It actually, in effect, made us desaturate color from the factory preset of 50 all the way down to 36 to get color, skin tones, and things like this to look natural. What happens when you do that is you're bringing the color resolution of all three primaries down at the same time. So you're actually losing some color resolution in the process. I'm really happy to say Panasonic took note of that and fixed the problem completely. We now have accurate color decoding in their VT50, and we have double the brightness. This panel is significantly better in terms of picture performance than it was last year. I'm really happy about that, and I want to thank them for it. And it just goes to show that they care enough about it to listen to people like me and Dwayne and others that are complaining about these issues and actually do something about it and fix it in the next generation. That's really what we want to see happening. So take a look at the Panny WT50 in the corner there. Not to pick on them, but that's basically the same decoding as last year's VT30. If I bring up, thank you. If I bring the color up to the factory level where we started at in custom, which is 50, and I play content back for you, everybody's face is going to look like her shirt. Sunburn, really over red's bleeding all over the place, skin tones will look totally incorrect. So really all you have to do is take that, put it in this, and in terms of color decoding, and you'll be all set.
You think that was just a problem with this particular panel, or this?
Yeah,
I don't know, it could be.
That's really crazy.
Well, but it's crazy, but we lived with this for the entire year on your top flagship plasma last year. That is a possibility.
You're saying the VT30 plasma looks similar to
It was, I got, in the very beginning of the production run of those TVs, I set color at 36 on those pictures for the same reason.
Yeah, probably through November of last year.
Then they came up with a firmware update for luminance and color that definitely improved it. It did not fix it all together, but it improved it and allowed us to raise that color level up into the 40s. But yeah, so distinct possibility, Larry. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, the next time I get my hands on one of these, I'm going to take a very close look at that, obviously, and I hope that that is the case. But not having two samples, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be kind of bad that your first production run has that again.
Panasonic has fixed that problem with this year's VT50.
Yes.
We're up at 46 or something.
We're at 46 with this one. The reason why we're using the color control in this is because the luminance control in the CMS control set is broken. However, kudos to Panasonic because even without that control, with the regular color control, we got perfect color and stimuli levels. And if you guys are looking through the filters, what you're going to see is you will see that it looks like it has color decoding problems. It's not. It's a false. It's a false positive, as we call it.
Because the color processing is
right. The color's being processed. So, calibrators and reviewers, to be honest, I know a lot of calibrators and reviewers stick to this for 100%. You can't do that anymore. You have to, one by one display, check it with filters and with sensors and different stimuli levels. If in theory and actually in real world, both should match up to be correct. But if you have a mismatch, whatever the sensors reading and the stimuli levels is correct compared to this.
In other words, what you're talking about is you're measuring the luminance of the color,
right?
And you're adjusting the color control to adjust the luminance, right?
Right.
So if it's a little bit high, you could use a color control to bring that down. At least in the case of the Panasonic VT50. Right. If it's really high, that's not going to work.
Right. Exactly.
But it's another lesson. We get it, every year practically. You
right.
have to use your eyes. Your meter, it's not
one of it's not one of the other, it's both. And that's the art of calibration. You have to know which one is right and when to use what and how to use what. That's the importance of a good calibrator. And I would highly recommend reviewers start doing this also because I know the top reviewers that I know of are still using this to actually set up color with one of these patterns. And
if we could
just
get that, we'd be all
right.
good.
If you can get that by itself, or even with that, to be honest with you, this is also a false positive. Remember?
Oh well, that's because I have an explanation for that because Mike explained it to me. At the factory, this Samsung apparently, some of the engineers are still insisting that most people will adjust color with filters. So the color level is slightly high. So if you look at this at factory, which is 50 on color, it's going to look just a little incorrect. So what will happen is you'll see, I'm not going to do it, but one of these patches will look a little bit brighter than the other one next to it. But when I brought color down to 47, it looks exactly perfect. Luminance on the colors measures nearly perfect. The X and Y coordinates of the gamut is all just nailed. So it's great. Got to convince those guys that you've got a feature like this. Nobody in their right mind would use a filter when you've got that. Wow, off angle, boy. I was over there going, what's wrong with this red? See what that red looks like, Mike, right? Come here and look at it. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's LED LCD for you.
I got a question.
Sure.
So, for home, say in the setup, if you didn't have someone to come calibrate the TV, would you say this would be good enough to use?
Excellent question. From what we've seen with just these 6 panels, I don't think so. I mean, and it's really, it's
It'll
really
lead you down the
right.
primrose path, so to
Right.
speak.
Right. It's one of those things where, for the regular consumer, it'll probably be better just to eyeball it, to be honest with you, because I mean, no, I'm serious, because of the fact that this is not going to be even 50-50. You know, it's more like 1 in 10. You see what I'm saying? So if you're at 1 in 10, with your eyes to a certain degree is closer to 1 in 10 than it is anything else, right? It's not going to be that 1 in 10, but it'll probably be 1 in 15 or 20. You see what I'm saying? So it's better for the consumer just to eyeball it to a certain extent, because you don't know, unless you can go online and actually read what others have found with the displays, then you can see, okay, well, I can use this or not.
I got a way of actually telling, because I'm looking at a Sonic filter, and I know that if you look at the filters on this,
It
they
looks
look
off.
really off.
Yeah.
That's where it clearly wouldn't work. If it looked a little bit off, then you might be able to do something like that. But if you owned a TV that has this capability, it's a no-brainer. If you put blue up here and set color and tint, I mean color anyway,
Right.
Or put up color bars for color and tint if you want. What I was going to do is get that out of there and take a look at a filter on that, so you can see, because you can see that there's no error with the isolation feature, right? Take a look at it and see, look at it through the red filter right now and see what the error looks like. I'm going to guess it's going to look pretty significant. Yes? Yeah, oh yeah, it's really significant. I mean, look at, these are dim as can be compared to those. It's, yeah, that's, so filters, really, we should just get rid of them altogether, shouldn't we?
I mean, at this point, I mean, I would encourage the manufacturers to correct what they're doing so that the end consumer can use these, because this is going to be the cheapest avenue to do some type of adjustment on their display. So this will be more for the manufacturers to, you know, do this right for something like this. You know, calibrators, we can figure it out.
At the same time, though, if you do the color right in the first place, then throw the feature in there, you don't have to do anything. You just
Right.
look at it, we're done.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
I mean, that's obviously what we really want. But
I was going to say what the manufacturers are doing, and this is true of all manufacturers, I think, is the color mixing is a matter of actually getting the correct colors is where the mixing comes into play.
Right.
Is what basically negates the value of the filter.
right, exactly.
So without that color mixing, you'd have one of two choices. I mean, yes, we could make a TV that would be 6500 and Rec 709 only, but we wouldn't really be able to sell any of them.
Because you wouldn't be able to do all the other crazy stuff that
Right, wouldn't have
actually
be
most
able to
people
have
use,
dynamic mode.
right, like Vivid and all of
Is
that.
it possible to create a mode that can do it? I mean,
Well-
if we calibrators can do it with one mode, you know, I know you guys can make a base template. It's not going to have to be perfect, but it can be better than what's already out there.
Well, it's the fact that the TV is capable of doing both settings is
Okay.
what's causing that.
Okay.
It's the fact that we have a dynamic mode at all,
Right.
and can then mix. So like the green in the dynamic mode is like way off the chart, right? In order to bring that green down, we have to mix a little red and a little blue with it.
Right.
If we made a TV without a dynamic mode, sure, then you wouldn't need then you could go back to using filters. But the problem there
The
is
simple way to do it is give us the freaking feature.
yeah, that's the only
Or
way.
the
dynamic gets around.
Here's something for you guys also.
Right?
You have your setup menus when the consumer gets a display anyway, right?
Yeah.
Stick some basic calibration stuff. LG did this, if I'm not mistaken. Some simple basic calibration like the black level, like a simple blues pattern. Yeah, picture wizard. There you go. And color. You know, and Samsung can use their red, green, and blue filters basically, which is built into the panel. That way, it's much better than having that. And I mean, it's straight eyeball. I mean, it's real simple. It's just a wizard.
The reality is probably the vast majority of people would not use that kind of stuff anyway. I think that's why manufacturers are.
Well, yeah, but how many of the consumers go through the wizard? to set up the cable, the antenna.
Well,
How many people just hit exit?
All the time. I do it.
Well, how much cost is involved in setting up a red-only mode? I mean, can't be that much.
Gotta be pennies.
Right.
Can't be much.
Gotta be
Terrific
pennies.
feature.
It's worth a lot more than it costs.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's all it is. Worth more than it
Take a
costs.
little of that smart stuff and squeeze it off to the side.
I mean, how many of the consumers really even know?
Well, see, that's the thing. That's another opportunity for the manufacturer to get consumers more into picture quality. If you put that into a wizard in the beginning when they get the display, now that you raise the question in their head, okay, what is this for? How? Okay, so this is making my display look better. You know, just give them the breadcrumbs to go out and figure out later on.
Absolutely.
Great. Besides having nothing,
Costs more
you
than
know.
implement that whole thing. It's not like-
So do we expect if we look through the green should become invisible or whatever, right? Is that
It should be, yes.
In theory, yes.
In theory, it should. However, with the filter, it's not going to because it doesn't work well. That's why I did this and this. That's why I'd like Panasonics, the Pioneers, the Elites, excuse me, everybody should have red, green, and blue only features in their television.
So we shouldn't judge anything from these filters.
Not really, no. I just,
Well, you show how good the filters are.
I guess this will be the last year I hand out filters. But seriously,
Don't buy stock in the filter company.
there you go. Don't, exactly. Sell it short right now.